So you wrote the track at Song Hubs. Did you have that idea like going into Song Hubs? Like, did you think like this is what I want to write the track about, or did it just how did that idea and then like the progress come about for the track?
I had been wanting to write about the issue for a long time and had tried a couple of times unsuccessfully. I just could never quite get the right tone because I didn't want it to be a really like obviously there are emotional, sad moments of the song, but I wanted it to be empowering, and I'd never written anything like that before, so I found that quite tricky. And I didn't actually, when I was at Song Hubs, I didn't have the intention of writing it, but I knew that if I ever had the chance to write it with Tami in any circumstance, that I would definitely want to do that. So at Song Hubs each day you like wake up and then they just have a list of names of who you're with, and I was with Tami, and so I just thought that I would sort of pitch the idea. It's always such a weird thing. You go into a room and sometimes people have really clear ideas. They're like, this is what we're writing about, this is what it's going to be like, and I just sort of pitched the idea just to see how everyone felt about it, because there was also two others in the room as well. It wasn't just Tami and I. And so anyway, they all jumped on board, and everyone sort of had their own way of understanding it, even though we were writing it very much from like a female perspective. The guys in the room had their own ways of, they'd either seen sexual misconduct happening or known about it or known someone had impacted, or like Vale had just had a wee baby girl, and so for him it became about that. And so yeah, it was cool to see how everyone sort of locked into the same vision, and yeah, that's where it came from.
That's so cool. Yeah, I suppose like it would be a bit, I feel like when men have daughters it becomes so different for them, because if it's probably not something they're really thinking about now. They're like, this is gonna happen, this might happen to my daughter, like in this almost like panic mode in a way, like I need to prepare for this.
And Tami and I, like within that conversation, we did talk about how it shouldn't have to be like that. Like I do think when people, I think it's a powerful way to make people think about, you know, how it could impact people that they love, but really it should just be because it's another human.
Yeah.
So I think like one day we'll get to that point, but I think whatever makes people kind of be more aware of it is still, it's good.
So I've like obviously like watched the video, and as much as like it's almost like it made me like, because the track itself was already quite emotional itself, but watching it with the video, like I nearly cried. And I was just but then it was like a combination of like, after I watched it I was like, I don't know if I'm sad or like also just like a combination of like sad and angry that like the song exists for a reason type of thing. Yes. As well. Like I'm just sort of like, I was like, the fact that the song has to be written and is still like all this stuff still happening, I was like, I'm like sad and angry, but also I'm just like, who's listening to this? Because I'm also like, it's the certain type of people that need to be listening to this.
Yeah, and I definitely have found it very interesting, like performing it live. I haven't had a lot of chances to do that yet, but like my live show typically is really based around like my family and where I come from, and like why I love traveling, and sort of pretty much all happy things. Like there is emotion, like I speak a lot about like loss and things like that, but I've never really explored anything that is this political, and it's just very interesting watching people who maybe aren't expecting that from like a Jenny Mitchel show. That's not really what they came to get. And so it's really interesting watching people's in real time, you know, especially when it's smaller gigs, when they're up close and personal. I think some people feel quite threatened by the idea, but then by the end of it, hopefully they understand, you know, the message, and they're into it. But yeah, it's definitely been a new experience for the person who usually writes happy little folk songs.
It's like, how has the reception been, and have you found the response more from like from women in general?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I sort of expected that would happen. I think when I sing the song, I usually speak about that. Where it came from for me initially was my younger sisters who are in the video, and so I think there's a lot of sort of either sisterly stuff going on for people, or like maternal or whatever. I think that or it's themselves. So I think that definitely comes out. But I have had lots of really interesting conversations with men as well afterwards, because I often sort of make a point to say that we all need to be part of this to make a change. And that's why there's men in the video. That was definitely like on purpose, that those are and there was actually many more invited. There was actually many more people in general invited, but life is just busy. So there's been so many men in my life that have just been so integral to me feeling safe in different spaces and stuff like that. So when I sing it, and anytime that I'm talking about it, I always try to include the fact that this is in no way like a men hating anything. Like there is nothing, no part of that. And so much of my working life as a musician has been with men. And so, yeah, I think it's perhaps even more important that they hear this song in some ways. But it's important to everybody, but I've really enjoyed having conversations that perhaps they've never had before, whereas I guess it's more likely that women in the industry are having these conversations now because of the last couple of years and the conversations that are happening. But there's definitely still a lot of people in the industry and out of the industry that have never even been able to start talking about the topic. So I hope that, yeah, if this can be the start of any, one or two conversations about that, I'm happy, and that's the song's done its job.
Yeah. It sort of makes me think of like, there was this, I'm obsessed with TikTok, as most people probably are by now. There was this woman who, like, obviously like music is like a big thing on TikTok, but a woman released a song about sort of like sexual assault, but she like made it, did like one of those open verse things where you let like,
oh yes,
duet and make, but it was actually like, there was so many amazing duets, and like obviously a lot of the women's ones were really emotional and personal, but there was one by this guy, and his was also like quite intense as well, but he said there was a line that like sort of like stuck with me. He said, although we all know it's only some of us, it's got to be all of us until it's none of us.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
And I was just like, facts. Like it was just like, I think there's also that like misconception that people are like, well, I don't do that, so like it's fine and I don't need to like do anything else. And it's almost like,
yeah,
but you have guy mates too, and then like it's almost like having that awareness and like also keeping people in check, I think, as well. But it also becomes like a bit of a conversation that people were like still, I think, getting comfortable, like we're trying to get comfortable to have as well.
Yeah, I think people are comfortable saying it's wrong, but people aren't sure how to say like, so we're going to do XYZ. Like that's the part that we're still, and some people aren't, like Jeremy Redmore, who is from Midnight Youth and he's in the video. He is someone that I actually hadn't even met, so I did the video, but we were set to do some gigs last year together. And he messaged me and said, like, we were all set to go. And he said, by the way, my whole touring party is all male. And so we are staying in this kind of like bunk room situation. And I've booked you another room, like in the next unit of the hotel, and like no extra costs. Like that's just what we're doing. And we just want to make sure that you feel safe. And I was like, oh my God, that is like, that's so perfect, because that's so easy to do. And like, yes, it's an extra cost, but of course a 22-year-old girl doesn't want to go into a bunk room with a bunch of guys that she doesn't know. Like when you actually break it down, it's quite common sense that that's not really like somewhere that I would feel safe. So I think I've really enjoyed seeing, I guess it's like allyship, that to me that is like proper allyship, not just saying like, oh yeah, it's a problem, that before there's even any, like I don't have to do anything, I don't have to be the person who says I'm not sure that I feel okay with that. It's just like he's got the common sense and the foresight to say, oh no, that's not good. So yeah, I think there's been just with awareness, I think in the last couple of years there's been a lot of people that have recognized those things before they have to happen, and I think that's good.
I found with also a lot of that's like people becoming more aware. Sometimes I also get a bit worried that also people are just doing it to like check a box as well. Like it's almost being like, now that this is such a public, like I suppose like a public thing, and it's been public, like it's been more in everyone's face for like the past couple of years. Like it's almost like people are doing it now to be like, no, we've got like this one person or like this, you know, and it's almost like, because I remember I actually went for a job interview. I won't name them because but, I went for a job interview and they straight up told me that they were only hiring a woman. And I was a combination of like, thank you for telling me, but also like, are you trying to tell me that like I'm only getting this interview because I'm a woman? And then it was also like organized, but then also it sounded like it was because of someone they already work with who's a female, essentially growling them
Right.
for like.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And I was sort of like, I love that, but also like, now you're just doing what you're told. But I still love that she told you off and now you're listening. Like it was
Yes.
just like, but I feel like these conversations are becoming a bit more like awkward, but also like forcing people to accept it in a way. So, yeah, it's because I feel like I'm on the fence. Like,
yeah, I talk about this stuff all the time. Actually, when I was at uni, I did some gender studies, which really like sort of made me, I don't know, much more aware of all those kinds of things, like in workplaces and all the time. And then there's been so many conversations about, you know, like equal gender split at festivals and all those things, which I'm all for, and think like, of course, that it should be equal because that represents the world. So that's cool. But I agree that there is like situations where you think, is that actually fair, you know, like on that person because they don't, you know, tick that woke box? Is that the right thing to do? But I don't know. I reckon that the way I see it is there has to be some, and until things are a little bit more equal playing field, there's got to be some kind of correction, and then that has to be kind of, but it is funny when you get in like job situations like that and you're like, like how do I feel about it now? Like when you see it, when it's been done, it's almost like, oh great, there's like 3 women on that board or whatever, that's awesome, but you don't think about the process. But I guess hopefully in time it won't have to be like that, because there'll be enough women on the board that they'll be interviewing, you know, like, and all those, it'll all trickle down, and I don't know, I hope everything will be great.
Well, yeah, in a way I was like, I'm sort of like, I suppose it's like you sort of hope that those women will go into the team and then that help them all realize like, actually we need women because they're actually doing like better than we are. They know how to do all these things, and it was just like, we don't, but because I also hate, like, I was like around the whole like festival thing as well, I sort of got annoyed with how people would say like, we don't have women on the lineups or anything, but we have them in the crew. And then it's almost also just sort of like, do you though? And also like, I think the problem with a lot of like promoters and stuff is they're thinking of it as like ticket sales and stuff like that, which I get, they have to like make money, but it also becomes like I don't think you realize like, if you put more like sort of like women, non-binary, like LGBTQ sort of like people on your stage, it's going to attract those crowds. So actually like, you'd get different people,
new audience,
and stuff, because they think, oh, this artist is playing here, clearly it's like a good space and they're playing it, and also just seeing a reflection of yourself, I think, on stage,
100%
in those roles.
And it's so much about seeing yourself, and that's like what Tami was for me when I was like 10 years old and saw her play for the first time. That's like changed my life, and she laughs when I say that, but it is like you do what you see. Like I'd never seen a girl with like a guitar singing like the kinds of songs that she was singing and that kind of thing, and it literally changed, I think changed my whole sort of trajectory of I guess you just like the things that you model yourself off, like you're like, oh, I want to be like that. And Tami was so outspoken and she was so funny on stage, and until then I hadn't really seen anyone like that. I'd seen a lot of women that were very like amazing at their craft, but it was often not like really bold and funny and that kind of thing. So I think it's just what you see is what you mimic, I guess.
So what has like your experience been like in the music industry so far?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think I've been really lucky to get to travel a lot with different festivals and stuff. I spent a lot of time in Australia pre-pandemic, and have toured in Ireland and did a very short tour in Sweden while I was over there as well. And so when I look back at, which the pandemic has allowed me to do, I look back at those times now and I'm like, man, that just feels like a different lifetime. I think that on all those tours I was traveling on my own, so that sort of has been an interesting experience, and in some ways I think has made me like really strong and capable of sort of standing up for myself and doing those kinds of things. And I guess like in relation to the song in this conversation, that it wasn't really until I took my sisters on tour that it became clear to me that actually like, they shouldn't have to remove themselves from that room, or like they shouldn't have to feel uncomfortable, or that person is clearly making them uncomfortable and that's not okay, and so on. So I think I've been reflecting a lot on you know, like at 18, going to Europe and traveling around and trusting people, and thankfully I did trust people, and I met only wonderful people, and it was awesome. But I probably even now, a couple of years later, am a bit more wary of those things, and particularly as I watch my sisters sort of start to navigate what their place is in the music world. But yeah, I've had an awesome time, and the last couple of years have been weird, but I've learned lots of things, and am just sort of hoping that this is the last wave of not gigness. So hopefully I'm right.
I'm missing gigs. Like, I miss gigs so much. It sucks. Also, like, I realized, like, coming out of first lockdown, I was like, I took this for granted. Like, I was going to so many gigs, and I was like,
I know, me too.
I was going to sort of like, I suppose, like, go on to how you're like signed to Cooking Vinyl and your released your track and your video. So how's, like, I suppose, like, you're obviously still releasing stuff and like moving forward. So you just has like your processes sort of changed, especially I suppose like with COVID and releases and stuff? Because I know, I suppose, a lot of artists sort of were putting stuff off, and then they realize like there's sort of no point, and it becomes sort of like a big planning game, I guess.
Yeah, I think for a time I felt that I just didn't want to release anything. I sort of was ready to release some stuff last year and wasn't sure. Well, I released Trouble, the song, but there, you know, I had other stuff sort of ready to go, and we just had a big conversation about it, and I felt that we would wait, but we have done that a number of times. Like, there's the plan has shifted many times for this new music that's coming out. And then I think I was really disheartened when I felt like New Year's Eve. I remember I was like, yep, this is the year, this is awesome, it's all gonna be great. And I had, you know, like this plan, which has stayed, the plan is the plan now, so we're releasing and we're going with it. But I think it's just the emotional experience of, you do so much work behind a computer and you do so much planning. And, you know, when I recorded Somehow was in like the end of 2020, so it's such a long time ago, having that creative process of making that song. And then there's so much planning that has happened, so many meetings and conversations and stuff, and which I do love the business side of it, but it's not why I'm creating music, you know, like it's not why I'm doing it. And so then when you do all of that and then you put the song out into the world, and you know, like, I've been really blown away by the response that I've got from it, and it's awesome that, you know, that social media exists and at least we can get some kind of feedback. But when you play a show, it's just so different. It's like the antidote to all of the sitting at the screen and the typing and all the stuff, and it actually makes me feel like I'm doing something that, you know, is real. Even like, that sounds so dramatic, but it's such a funny experience putting it out there and not having any, you know, like, people to talk to about it in real life. So I think that I have just now decided that, you know, people are still listening. I love when there's still music coming out, and it's still just as important to me when an artist that I love puts a new record out. But I'm just definitely looking forward to the time when I can put something out and then be playing a show to celebrate it and actually, connect with people. So it did change my mindset for a while, but I think a lot of people now are just like, well, we've got to do it at some point and we can't control, what's happening. So, and I think also what I didn't realize, like, I've always known that connection stuff's really important to me, but I actually really like singing. So it's interesting that, when I played a little gig a couple of weeks ago here in Wellington, and I was like, oh man, I actually really love doing the actual thing, actually getting a chance to sing is one of my favorite things. So it's an interesting time of working all that stuff out and working out why you actually like doing it. But I'm looking forward to when we don't have to think about any of it, because we're doing so many gigs that we just don't have time.
I know, I was like, because I suppose like when we went into first lockdown, I was just like so busy in the way that it was, because I had a full-time job at the time, so it was sort of like full-time job gig, like it was just like pretty much badly burning the candle, but it was like amazing. And then we went to first lockdown, and then I got sick because I think my body was just like, we're a bit done. So I was like, this is good. Like, this is like, have a break, I guess. But at the same time, now I'm just sort of like, I don't think my body can go back to that. So I'm just sort of like, no, we need this energy. Like, go.
And it's a thing that I've been thinking a lot about with my voice as well, because I've been like trying to sing. I saw somewhere that people are saying you should sing for an hour a day, and then that will help you get your kind of like voice strength back, because you do lose it. Like I do feel a lot more fatigued easier. So every time when I drive to work, I like sing at full volume and try and get it back to normal, because that would suck if everything opened up again and then I was like, oh, I can't actually sing 4 nights in a row. So yeah, there's lots to think about in terms of like gig fitness and stuff. I think that such fun to come.
What with the video coming out on International Women's Day, was that always sort of like the plan? Like, did you, when you released the track, did you have the video, like have an idea for the video and then like think it's going to come out on this day? Was that the initial plan, or did it just sort of like space out like that?
No, it was not the initial plan. I'd love to say it was the initial plan. But no, we had planned to, we had the song ready to go, and I was going to do exact same concept, like the concept's always been the same. And then we went into that lockdown last year, so we couldn't. And then pretty much everybody in the video, apart from my mum and my sisters and I, are from Auckland. They're based in Auckland. So while we carried on with our lives here, we couldn't get into Auckland. And so there was like a few different dates that didn't work out. And the same with around that time, we were meant to be touring with Tami's F-Word show, and that was all canned as well. So it was kind of, it was pretty heartbreaking, because I felt like that was sort of the perfect environment for that song to really kind of like have a live show life. And then yeah, we couldn't do the video, but I was determined that even though we had somehow coming out, I was determined that I really wanted to just create the project, because I just, in my head it looked cool. So I really and also like I'd already sort of rounded up some people last year that wanted to be part of it, and it was so amazing on the day getting to connect with them, because some of them I haven't seen for over a year, and I would usually see them every couple of months. And so it was really awesome, just even for that side of things, to be able to finally do it. So when we were looking at, okay, well, so we're going to be releasing this in 2022, and what's that going to look like, I was like, I think that International Women's Day is a good day.
yeah it is a good day, yes. So like I like to like end my interviews with like fun questions, because I think interviews are just too serious.
Yes. Okay. I'm fun.
What's your favorite snack?
Popcorn.
Ooh, but like extra butter, or like
like movie popcorn, like movie. Yeah,
you can't beat movie popcorn. Because I'm very much that person as well, like especially with my mum's the same. It's like we'll go to the movies, and if there's leftovers, it's like you don't leave it behind, you take it home with you.
No,
it's almost also nice the way it sits there longer too, because it's almost I don't know, it tastes worse, but like in a good way.
No, I love that. That was quite a quick response. That was good. But yeah, my heart obviously knows that that's the snack for me.
What's your most overused phrase?
Oh, I do say 100%, I think, a lot. And I say it in person and in text. And there's one person in my life that says that I say it too much, and I think I say that a lot. Yeah.
You just use the 100 emoji?
No, I type it out. I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm not that hip. So yeah, I do say that, in agreement with whatever it is. That's my response.
I suppose it's probably better than the emoji, because it actually shows like you've took the time to reply to this person.
Yeah, that's like, true. Yeah. Yeah.
Not like just like the.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's become like the new K.
Yes.
And then the last one I had was, if you could start, this is going to be like a interesting question, but if you could start a rumor about yourself, what would it be and why?
Oh yeah, actually that I'm cool enough that some fancy designer like dressed by Karen Walker or something. So that I was for an event that somebody, who would it be? Who would I want to be dressed by? Like Ruby. Yeah, I'm dressed by Ruby at all times. Yeah.
I think I've been to like one fashion show before, but it's also like, I always look at those and I'm always like, it must be nice to just be given these clothes. Like, just, like knowing in your mind they're costing these people like thousands of dollars, but they're just sort of like, please wear this to your event. Here's like this free like $1,000 dress. And I'm just sort of like, I would love that, please. Like,
yes. Yeah.
Like just sponsorship would be nice.
Like, I can't remember who it is. She's a New Zealand designer though, but she made Tami's suit that she's wearing in the video, and it's all like embroidered with like heaps of stuff, and someone just like made that for her, and I'm like, what?
You're like, what's that like?
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's very, yeah, it's very cool. But yeah, no, that's my room, I reckon. That's a good idea.
Well, that was all the questions I had, but thank you so much for the chat. I'm glad we
That's
finally
all right.
happen.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, it was fun. It's so nice to just have a chat rather than feeling like I'm filling out a questionnaire. So no, it was very cool. I love the questions, and it was cool to hear your perspective on it as well, on the whole conversation.
Oh,
cool.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, and have a great day.
You too. See you.
Burn it down now, sister.